updated. Moving ahead, class number 6, where we are talking about planning. Now, what planning are we talking about here? It's about like, how do we maintain an AIMS system? If we are doing it for the first time, how do we start? Where to start off? What are the things we should be having? What are the mandatory documents we have? And what are the different stages? And what are the different phases of forming the AIMS systems? And if we are doing it as a next, we have already built our AIMS and primary setup. How are we maintaining it? So what is the plan going ahead? So all the planning activities, strategization, team up efforts, the resources, and everything we are going to be a part of planning phase 6 and clause 7 support. So what are the planning core activities, and then what are the supports we require in terms of resources and other things to strategize or to implement those plans. So if we look back, so clause number 4, 5, 6, 7 actually talks about the planning phase of a PDCA cycle. Moving on to clause 8, where we are actually implementing what we have planned so far. So it's the operation phase. So that's a do phase. And then we have clause 9, where we are performing performing an evaluation of the AIMS systems which we have developed and which is in operation. So this is the check phase, the assessment phase, and the audit phase. And then finally, depending upon the findings, what we get in the clause number 9, we are going to do an improvement. As it's continual improvement is definitely the recommendation which comes from ISO 42001. And this is where we see how can we improve the AIMS as a system. Now, people who are ISO 27001 practitioners, I can see their eyes gleaming. So you definitely can relate how closely we are actually following 27,000 out here. So 42001 is actually built on 2 core standards, 27001, which is the ISMS standard, and then the data privacy standard, the PIMS standard, privacy management system, information management system, which is 2701. So if you club these two and sit on this, for cybersecurity and data privacy, we are using any kind of AI systems, 42,000 would be sitting on top. So as a whole, we can form it as a triangle. So we are doing cybersecurity, we are talking about data privacy, and AIMS or artificial intelligence management system. As a whole, this becomes one good topic. Moving ahead, so now let's wear a lens of data collection from a data engineer standpoint or from a data assessment standpoint. The very first stage which we have where we start off is data collection. If we are building on an LLM, a private LLM for our own organization or our entities, internal entities, private entities, we'll start off with collecting data. If we are using or we are processors of data, then we are going to utilize these existing data sets for the processing purpose. That also depends on this data discovery. Now, how do we collect those data? So it includes both, basically. How are we collecting data for discovery purpose as well as for building our own LLMs? So let's see one by one. Do I have anyone who echo the similar kind of questions from their assessments or from their clients as well? Or maybe if you are going to perform let's say AIMS assessment, or if you're going for security compliance these days, which utilizes some AI systems, do you get yourself familiar to any of these questions? Like, what information assets exist in the emerging AI models? I'm using a lot of AI models for sure, but what information assets exist in my model? Do I own it? Who owns it? Right? So ownership of information asset itself is creating a lot of noise. So how do you overcome that? So that's indeed a collection challenge. How to identify sensitive data at scale? Sensitive data, it can be business confidentiality or even it can be a private data. As a whole, how do I identify? That's the first activity of any data discovery tool, right? Any data discovery activity. But if it's at scale means, we are using AI in the backend and then huge data sets have been already created and it's getting created at the speed of light and speed of AI. So how to identify sensitive data at scale? Are our tools ready enough to perform a data discovery with the speed of AI models, AI engines? Which information assets are publicly exposed to AI engines? How would we handle AI engines? What degree of public exposure does this data have? I might be having a set of private data, a set of confidential data with me, and then I'm using some AI tools and some public LLMs are being used, and then I'm doing some kind of processing and creating something, maybe a business decision document or some roadmap, or maybe I'm creating some beautiful schematics. But is it getting publicly exposed? Am I exposing my confidential data by using this AI agents? Where is the line? Where is the guardrail? What guardrails do we have today? Are there at all any guardrail? So that is a very big question. And the moment we are talking about data exposure, what we are actually talking of is security risks. And how do you prioritize these risks? Until and unless we do a risk management and we do a risk prioritization, we'll not get to know. But how do we quantify that risk? Do we have a mechanism in place? Will ISO 27001 risk management actually work for an AI system? The answer is big no. We now understand that. But what's the way forward? How do we manage that, or how do we handle that? Again, every passing month, we are adding a lot of global regulations or regulatory terms or new additions to existing regulations which are coming up. How do we keep a pace of that? Because if you're using AI engines and we're exposing data at the speed of light, how to comply with those hundreds of global regulations? Is there a common dashboard which can automate and give me, early warnings, or give me at least some kind of notification that, okay, these are the new requirements I need to comply to. These are the existing ones. This is a compliance score, and where do I stand through? The complete visibility around this. What is the compliance status which we have? And how to evaluate the posture readiness. If we are ready, how ready we are, how much, still to go. What is the gap? Like, we generally conduct gap assessments, but here, if we are evaluating the data security posture readiness, how to conduct that? DPI has been, it's an old story. We have walked out of it. We are walking out away from DPI and the traditional DPI practices with every passing day, because we have already started ingesting our data into the AI systems. But how do you evaluate the posture readiness? That is a question. We keep getting these questions from a lot of skeptical clients, and it is absolutely right. I completely go by them. That yes, these are the questions. These are the skeptical. This question have to be there. But do I have an answer as an expert? It's time to think. Then how can you track the data which is being exposed through the AI environment? I have been using AI, and solutions are being made keeping in mind use of AI engines. But when the time of execution comes, a lot of questions pop up like this. So how are we going to track the usage of data? Once I've pushed my data into an AI engine, does it get deleted? Do I have the deletion rights? If not, then do we have in place to address such gaps or such concerns, the security risks which we have identified? I know this risk. I'm ready to accept this. Do I have a taker of this risk ownership? Who is going to own all these risks which we have just talked about? So these are some big challenges for data collection from a security compliance standpoint. Basis this, if I have to map it with the ISO 27001 RAP, responsible AI principles, these are the 7 core principles, I'll say, which are used to assess and evaluate the effectiveness of AI systems. Transparency of data. Like I said in the previous question, from where this data comes through. It's anyways an amalgamation of a lot of data which is publicly available within the LLM. So what degree of transparency do I have when I'm using any AI tool for data processing? And comes hand in hand with it is explainability. Can the AI system explain what it is, how it is, where it is? A lot of questions. So transparency and explainability go hand in hand. Third comes the quality of data, accuracy of the information. If you have a little bit of understanding how AI works, artificial intelligence is built on a technology, a programming technology called machine learning. It's how a machine learns, how it talks with a human intervention. And how is the HMI done? HMI, I'm not sure how many of you have that exposure to different NLPs and deep learning technologies. HMI is like simple human-machine interaction. How a human being is interacting with an artificial system and it replies back. It's a mutual communication system or an interface. So how is this done? And so what kind of data feeds are being there? If it's a supervised learning system, if it's an unsupervised learning system, or it's a reconciliation type, how it is this being done? Right? So reinforcement of learning may go wrong if my data feed itself is wrong, if the generated output is wrong, and then I'm feeding it back to the system itself. So I'm polluting my own data. So how is that data poisoning being taken care of? How accurate are my results? How accurate are my LLM feeds? So everything matters. So that is the third tenet. Fine. So it's again built on the accuracy itself, trustworthiness. How trustworthy is my output? How trustworthy is my AI systems? Can I really trust the result? Can I really trust the business decision which is throwing up? Can I blindly go and take it? Or do I need a human intervention? Human attestation of the results thrown, or the results being, the decisions being suggested by an AI system. So trustworthiness is also important, because whenever taking a decision, my trustworthiness, my trust on the tool really makes a lot of difference. And that's where the credibility comes into picture. And then I was talking about bias in the very beginning only. So if my data feed itself is biased, if you remember the example which you took the recruitment to, it was so woman biased. It was so male biased. None of the women CVs were getting picked up. For what reason? Nobody knows. Nobody has fed that data to the system, definitely. But that's how the AI system is interpreted. And finally, the decisions have been taken through AI. So these AI made decisions, skipped the human intervention, HMI, and that's where it led to a biased decision making. So it was a direct violation of one of the evaluation parameters of ISO 2001. And then security and privacy. Security is where we are talking about business critical information, and privacy where we're talking about personal data. So any of these violations, so IS security and privacy are typically ISO 27001 principles, and privacy are ISO 27701 principles. So based on these 7 principles, what we call is RAP, and all the data evaluation parameters of ISO 42001 are built on these 7. Quickly moving ahead. So what lies ahead of evaluation? What lies ahead? How can we say that? And what's the impact on business? Simple. Even in 27001, 27005, 31000, all what we're talking about, even 27701, what we're talking about is impact analysis, right? So where we have to focus, what are the areas of concern? So the potential damages, like if you are performing risk management for the ISO 27001 standards, or if you have been doing it for privacy impact assessment, so there are certain potential damages which we actually generally look through, and then we try to find what is the harm or the potential areas of loss of the impact in those domains, right? So here also ISO 40001 lists out these broad areas of potential damage when we are doing any kind of risk or impact analysis of the data which has been either collected or processed, or whatever we have done with this set of data. So financial harm, yes, quite common. Loss of privacy, yes. What's new here is psychological harm. Have we ever considered in any of the previous risk managements which you have done through ISO 40000, through ISO 27001, or even privacy impact assessments, have we ever considered psychological harm as a potential damage or a potential impact for a technology analysis? No, right? So 40001 is unique in this scale. If you remember again, so going back to my one of my previous slides where I was talking about, it's just not technology. It also talks about societal harms. It talks beyond technology as well. So this is where we are focusing on. So ISO 40001 focuses on any ethical concern which gives rise to psychological harm of a data subject or anyone. So harm to physical health or safety, yes, we have been talking about it. Intangible property, yes, IP theft, damage to company's reputation and all. We have been already doing this as part of our existing risk management system, nothing new out here. Next, another new point is about social or political systems. We have been little brushing through it. The impact of political issues and the political systems only as part of ERM, which was Enterprise Risk Management, a bit of it in ISO 31000. But apart from that, we have not been talking about or touching upon political impacts or any kind of election interference or a lot of properties as part of any of our risk. Again, plays a lot of importance on the electoral narratives, which might have a biased decision making on the people. right? So that's where ISO 42001 takes a step ahead of 27001 and 27701. And finally, civil liberties as well. We have never talked about it earlier. In 42001, these are the three unique impact analysis or as a projected damages where we have to look through as part of our risk assessment, and how do we perform an impact assessment of the collected data. Civil liberties are typically like unjustified imprisonment or punishment. Like I was just reading through in one of the news articles, I think a couple of days back, so where a typing error by the collector has led to 1 year of imprisonment, wrong imprisonment of a person, of a convict. I mean, that's huge, right? That's a huge bridge. We can't tolerate this. So if you're talking about ISO 42001, this would be taken up as a crime. It's a major breach. A lot of penalty will be attached to that. So these are some of the impact analysis, or areas of concerns or potential damages which we must be looking through when we are preparing our risk assessment charter. And finally, so when we are done with the risk assessment, we have done the evaluation and everything, what remains with us is how to prioritize the data management within AI systems. I know what are the risks, where risks may creep in, but how do I prioritize my things at my end? So the first thing what we're talking about here is DSPM, which is again very unique to artificial intelligence management system, because till now we have been talking about data discovery, data management, data security, data protection, right? So all these were working in silos. Now what we're talking about is an end-to-end automation or management using AI system itself. So data management is now being done through data security posture management. It starts right from data discovery and goes through the entire life cycle, and then end-to-end solutioning is being provided through DSPM. DSPM itself is a huge ocean. So with this limited span of time, I'm really sorry I would not be able to focus more on this, because given a chance, maybe we can have an independent session on DSPM itself, like how we are doing it and what are the tools we are and what are the, again, pitfalls and use and pros and cons of DSPM. But DSPM itself is going to be an evolving as a topic in the immediate future to come through. Next is contextual data intelligence and metadata scanning. We understand what is metadata, right? It's data about data. So in AI systems, metadata and shadow data makes a lot of noise. Why? Because the systems are not owned by us. We don't have a visibility on the data which has been already put through or which has been already shared or exposed in an AI engine. Maybe it's a time for building, or when the clouds were gaining momentum, so we had to build from private clouds, from the public clouds. Similarly, here also probably we are going to need private LLM very soon, and large organizations have already started building through that. So contextual data intelligence and metadata scanning within a private environment is the next big thing. So that's organizations should start prioritizing. And finally, automated regulatory compliance and AI dashboards. Like I said, hundreds of new regulations are there, regulatory requirements are changing every day. So how do I keep a tab on that? So AI itself will be your partner in that. So automated regulatory compliance and AI dashboards, something. So these are the top three priorities. It's what, again, this is not an industry, I'll say, voice. This is something which I have gained from my own experience working in various industries and domains, and working in more than 100 plus engagements within this scope of ISO 40001. So these, I think, are my personal recommendations that should be the top priorities of the AIMS practitioners, and we should be focusing on DSPM, contextual data intelligence, CDI, and automated regulatory compliance. So just to summarize, I know we are running short of time, and so just to quickly summarize, so data is critical. We don't have to say anything out here. We understand how critical any piece of data can be and how important it is in maintaining the quality of data. So as we move into a neural structure, and when we are talking about a complex neural networks, not just structures. So we are talking about multiple neural networks and how they are interbuilt and all. So increasingly complex management, it's important to have now a data command center. We have always been talking about network command center, security command center, and a lot of other command centers. But now I think it's high time we should have our data command center as well. So what security controls can be built around it? So ISO 40001 already shares a list of security controls which are probably probably going to a part of the next. Maybe in the next release, we'll have a more matured version of it, but at least in the current version also, you'll find a lot of supports in terms of like providing the security controls in the different domains, very similar to what we have in the next A of ISO 27001. And then development data and AI diagnostic capability. So it all depends on the scale at which the organizations are using data and AI. So depending upon that, like we have SIEM in place, and all the mature organizations are using a lot of SOC and other data dashboards. So it is time perhaps for also to build an AI specific data and AI diagnostic capability as well around it, and automate the CDI program. And that, I mean, these two go hand in hand. The moment you automate things, I mean, it is easier to have the diagnostic reports, I mean, on a 24/7 basis, and you can just have an HMI in place to take care of it. Finally, establish the security controls for adopting these AI agents. Right. So with these, I'd like to open up the forum for questions. And Preetham, I'd like to stop sharing your.
Thank you so much, everyone. With this, we're coming to an end for today's session, and we will be seeing you in the next one tomorrow. Thank you so much.